I should have known when I saw the group photo they posted without me. It was already the second day of the family reunion, and somehow, despite bringing 4 trays of catered food, booking the massage therapist for the house, and paying the deposit on the luxury Airbnb mansion, I wasn't in the photo. I wasn't even asked to join. Just a sea of matching family t-shirts, arms around each other, big fake smiles, and no one noticed I was missing. I'd been in the kitchen, heating up their food. Let me back up. But before I tell my story, let me know in the comments where you're from, because I would love to know that my story is reaching different places. Also, if you enjoy, subscribe. It will really help the story reach more people. This reunion had been in the works for 6 months. My brother, Jared, and my cousin Tasha were the organizers, which is family code for they throw ideas around in a group chat and delegate everything. That's where I came in. "Can you just front the Airbnb deposit, Denise?" Tasha asked 3 months ago. "It's only temporary. We'll all pay you back by July." They didn't. And when I brought it up the week before the trip, my brother just said, "Denise, you know you're the only one with good credit and no kids. You always come through. We'll figure it out after the trip." So I paid the full $200 for the giant lake house. And still, I arrived last Thursday to a fake smile and a shrug. "Oh, hey Denise," my Aunt Gloria said, sipping wine by the infinity pool. "Can you help set up the food? Tasha said you brought a bunch." I nodded, even smiled. I always do. Inside, I passed my bags to my younger cousin Mariah, who gave me a smirk and said, "Oh right, you haven't seen your room yet." She led me down a narrow hallway that felt more like a maintenance corridor. At the end was a plain door. No decorations, no welcome sign, no cute towel swan like the other rooms. Mariah opened it with a dramatic flourish. Ta-da! It was a converted storage room. I'm not exaggerating. There was no window. The mattress was on a folding metal cot. A laundry cart sat in the corner, half filled with beach towels. The air was hot and smelled faintly of chlorine and mildew. "Seriously?" I asked, blinking. Mariah gave me a mock pout. "Sorry, it's just for a few nights. You're not picky, right?" I stood there frozen. I'd paid for this whole house. I'd brought food, wine, even backup sunscreen. And they stuck me in the one place no one else wanted. Mariah didn't wait for an answer. She turned and walked off, shouting, "Y'all, Denise is here." No one came to greet me. Later that evening, we gathered on the patio for a welcome dinner. The official welcome dinner, that is, meaning I was expected to serve. "Denise, would you mind watching the grilled veggies?" "I need to go straighten my hair," Tasha said, tossing me a pair of tongs before I could respond. Then, "Oh, and keep an eye on the twins. They're on the dock." The twins weren't mine. They were Jared's, and they knew how to swim better than I did. Still, I flipped zucchini and counted heads and fetched juice boxes. While I was checking the fridge for ice, I overheard my Aunt Gloria chuckle to my uncle, "She's just so helpful, isn't she? Like, a live-in assistant, our little family helper." He laughed. "Always has been, doesn't need much, just give her something to do." I stood still for a second. The fridge door hummed beside me. Just give her something to do. I wasn't even a person to them, just a pair of hands. After dinner, we all gathered for a toast. Jared raised his glass, loud and proud. To family, to summer, to being together. Everyone cheered. I raised my glass halfway. "And special thanks to Denise," he added. I looked up, surprised. "For bringing the lemon bars," he finished. Everyone laughed. I blinked. That was it? Not thanks for booking the place? Not thanks for covering everyone who didn't pay? Just lemon bars? I didn't laugh. I took my plate, went back to the storage room, and sat on the cot with the door closed. The Wi-Fi barely reached that end of the house. The next morning, I woke up early. I needed a moment to breathe before being summoned again. I walked out to the lake, coffee in hand, just as the sun started to rise. For a moment, it was quiet. No children screaming. No Bluetooth speakers blasting top 40, just the stillness of water and the sound of birds. until I heard them. 2 voices. Mariah and her older brother Chris. They were walking up the dock behind me. I mean, she's single, no kids, no husband, Mariah said. She should be the one cooking and helping. Chris laughed. That's her job, right? Basically, Mariah said, she doesn't have a real life. I didn't turn around. I didn't breathe. They didn't know I was there. Or they didn't care. I stood there for a few more seconds, then walked quietly back to my room. No one noticed I was up. No one asked where I'd gone. Later, during brunch, someone asked who'd clean up the mimosa bar. Someone else said, Denise'll do it. She always does. And I just nodded. That night, I stared up at the ceiling of the converted storage room. The mattress springs creaked when I shifted. My phone had 1 bar of reception. I thought of all the times I had stepped in, for birthdays, for emergency loans, for hospital bills. I thought of the times they forgot to pay me back, or promised to get me next time. I thought of the 1,000 tiny ways they erased me, not adding me to the planning group chat, not saving me a seat at the table, not even acknowledging that I paid for this weekend. I thought of the storage room they gave me, the windowless little box at the back of the house, the one no one else wanted. And I thought, no more, not one more meal, not one more favor, not one more silent yes. They didn't know it yet. But their little helper, she just quit. When I dropped out of law school at 24, no one in my family said it out loud, but I knew they were disappointed. No one asked if I was okay. No one asked how it felt to have your chest tighten every time you opened a textbook or tried to walk into a lecture hall. Panic attacks aren't glamorous, especially not to people who pride themselves on pushing through. My mom just pursed her lips and said, "You were always the smart one. Such a waste." Jared didn't say anything, just gave me that slow blink he always uses when he thinks someone's failed him. Tasha said, "Well, I guess not everyone's cut out for high-pressure careers." What they didn't see was how I'd spend every night after dropping out watching YouTube tutorials on marketing funnels and search engine optimization. I was broke, in therapy, and humiliated. But I was also building something. My laptop became my second skin. I picked up freelance clients, started managing digital ad accounts, and by 27, I had 5 recurring clients and a small team working under me remotely. I didn't shout about it. I didn't post vacation photos or buy flashy things. I was still wearing my Target jeans and using a cracked phone screen, but my savings account was healthy, and I was learning how to invest. The only time anyone in the family noticed was when they needed something. Jared called me one evening, voice tight with stress. "Denise, look, I hate to ask, but we're trying to close on this house and there's a delay with our bank. I just need $10,000 for the down payment gap. I'll pay you back the minute it clears." He didn't. A year passed before he even mentioned it. And when he did, it was during Thanksgiving dinner. "You should have seen how fast Denise sent that wire," he said to his friend across the table. "Girl must have had that money just sitting there, like a baller." They all laughed. No one said thank you. Then came the tuition emergencies. Tasha's son needed help to cover his final semester. She called me in tears. "I would never ask, but this is his last shot. If he doesn't pay by Friday, he'll lose his credits." I wired $3,200 the next morning. 2 weeks later, she posted on Instagram from a spa resort in Arizona. The caption read, "Mom deserves to recharge." I didn't comment. Then there was the time my cousin Chris wrecked his car. No insurance, no savings. "We just need a couple grand to fix it so he can get to work," his mom said. I paid the mechanic directly. Chris never even texted me. My phone would ring for birthdays, emergencies, medical copays, rent gaps, always last minute. Always just until we figure things out. Always with the same unspoken logic. Denise can afford it. She's single, no kids. She doesn't need that money like we do. I didn't mind helping at first. Honestly, it made me feel useful again, like I hadn't completely failed. I thought maybe this was how I earned my place back at the table, by being generous. But generosity without gratitude curdles into something ugly. They never asked how business was going. They never asked what I was building. They just assumed I was lucky, or got in early, or had rich clients. If I mentioned a work win, someone would change the subject, or worse, say something like, "Must be nice not having real bills." Or, "Of course you have time. You don't have a family." I was paying for their families. Jared and his wife went to Italy for their anniversary. He posted photos of their candlelit dinners and rooftop views. In the comments, someone asked, "How'd you manage this trip with the kids' tuition and the new house?" He replied, "Hard work and good investments." I stared at the screen. I had paid off part of their home loan and wired a $1,500 check for his daughter's school program just 2 months prior. But to the world, they were just thriving go-getters. And I was invisible. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't looking for applause or a trophy. I just assumed at some point someone would say, "Thanks for helping us when no one else could." But no. Instead, I got snide jokes and dismissive comments. Mariah once told a family friend at a barbecue, "Denise does something online. I think she helps people with their websites or whatever. It's cute." It's cute. I'd managed digital campaigns that grossed 7 figures in sales. I was running a business that pulled in 6 figures annually by the time I was 30. But to them, I was a girl with a laptop and too much free time. When I tried to pull back, when I stopped answering every call right away, they noticed. Not because they missed me, but because I was becoming less convenient. "Denise, I know you're busy," someone would start. "Hey, I hate asking again, but can you just do this one thing for me?" And when I hesitated, the guilt trip started. "Oh, I forgot, you're rich now." "Wow, must be nice to say no just because you can." Don't let success change you. But I hadn't changed. I just started noticing how they never remembered my birthday, but always remembered to send me a Venmo request. They never invited me to the planning calls, but they expected me to write the checks. They talked about me like I was either pitiful or obligated. Either the sad single girl or the sponsor. Nothing in between. They didn't see me. They saw my account balance. It wasn't about the money. Not really. It was the erasure. The way they'd rewrite the family history, like I was always just there. Quiet. Useful. Unnecessary to thank. I could live without applause. But I couldn't live as a ghost in my own story. That realization didn't come all at once. It came in quiet waves. In every eye roll when I talked about my work. In every joke that punched down. In every family gathering where I was the one refilling drinks, clearing plates, and sleeping in the smallest room. That's when I started to see it clearly. I wasn't the quiet success story they admired. I was their safety net, their bailout plan, their backup wallet, and deep down, they assumed I always would be. But they were wrong. So wrong. It was the second night of the reunion when I heard them laughing about my room. I had stepped out onto the back deck, needing air after cleaning up another mess in the kitchen. Someone spilled an entire pitcher of sangria and left it dripping off the counter. I wiped it up without a word, same as I always did. The sun had just gone down. The air was warm and thick with summer. I heard voices around the side of the house, by the outdoor shower. It was Mariah again. Her voice rang out like a bell. If she had a man, maybe she'd have better options. They laughed. I paused behind a column. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I didn't stop myself either. Chris replied, "What are you talking about? Denise chose that room." Mariah snorted. "Girl, please, they gave her the leftover storage closet." Another voice, I think it was Jared's wife, chimed in. "She should be grateful we invited her at all." There was a beat of silence. Then I heard Jared's voice, my own brother. "She only paid for the place because she wants to feel included. I didn't move. I didn't. I just stood there in the dark, one hand on the railing, heart still, eyes wide open. I wanted to feel included. That was his version of the story. Not that I helped because I cared. Not that I'd stepped in, again, because no one else could handle the deposit, or the planning, or the logistics. But because I was some sad, lonely, pathetic woman clinging to their approval. I stepped away before they could see me. Back to my room. Back to the windowless little box where the mattress dipped in the middle and the air was always 2 degrees too hot. I shut the door and sat down on the edge of the cot. And I laughed. Just once. Quiet and short. Not because anything was funny, but because that moment snapped something in me. It wasn't anger, not really. It was clarity. A clean, sharp kind of knowing. They weren't just ungrateful. They were entitled. And I had let it happen. I opened my laptop. There was just enough Wi-Fi signal to connect. I pulled up a few tabs, familiar bookmarks from my travel planning folder. Then I found what I was looking for, a 5-star private villa just 10 minutes away. Ocean views, 2 master bedrooms, infinity pool, full kitchen, privacy gates. Price, $3,800 for 3 nights. I booked it under a fake name. Initials only. Then I found a personal chef on a local concierge site. Booked her too, for a tasting menu and brunch service. Next, I opened my banking portal. I started pulling out. Canceled the automated tuition payments for my nephew. Paused the monthly transfer I'd been sending my aunt for utilities. Removed my credit card from the Airbnb account Jared used for his rental properties. I didn't even feel angry as I did it. I felt calm, clear. I wasn't cutting them off out of spite. I was cutting them off because I was done. There's a difference. They had turned me into a function, not a family member. They'd dressed it up as jokes and half-hearted gratitude and smirking familiarity, but underneath all of it, they just didn't see me. Not as someone with dreams, not as someone who built something real, not as someone who had value outside of being convenient. They saw me as the sponsor, the runner, the woman who always said yes. I stared at my booking confirmation for a moment, then closed the tab. The power shift wasn't in yelling. It was in walking away from a table that would never offer me a seat. The next morning, they were all buzzing about the beach day. I played along, smiled when I needed to, offered to help carry the folding chairs, took pictures for people when asked. No one noticed the shift. No one noticed that my phone was buzzing with confirmation codes and digital receipts. My new villa would be ready by sunset. As I passed through the kitchen, I heard Mariah again. She acts like she's so chill, but she always shows up with food and gifts, like she's proving something. She's just trying to stay relevant, Tasha replied. It's kind of sad. Sad. That was how they saw me. Not successful. Not helpful. Sad. I loaded up the last cooler into the SUV, smiling to myself. I'd let them believe what they wanted, for now. After all, I had a few more things to do. Later that afternoon, I scheduled an email to the family group chat. Just a simple message. Hi all, I have a work emergency and will be stepping away from the house for a few days. Still nearby, just need privacy. Please text only if urgent. No one responded. No, hope you're okay. No, let us know if you need anything. Just a thumbs up from Jared. Perfect. By dinner time, I packed a small bag and walked out with a coffee in hand. No one even asked where I was going. I left through the back gate. A black car was already waiting for me. The driver opened the door. I slid in. He handed me a chilled bottle of water and said, "To the villa, Miss D?" I nodded. The air conditioning hit my face. I exhaled. 30 minutes later, I was sitting by a private pool with a glass of wine, a plate of grilled scallops, and a view of the ocean. The chef was finishing dessert. I felt no guilt, only silence, only stillness. For the first time in years, I wasn't on call, wasn't expected to give, wasn't required to explain. They were still back at the mansion, still assuming I'd be there to clean up, cover bills, carry groceries, still laughing behind my back, still thinking I was desperate to belong, and they had no idea that I was already gone. The first text came at 9:14 a.m. Tasha texted, "Hey Denise, the power's out. Did the house trip a fuse or something?" I ignored it. At 9:26, my phone buzzed again. Mariah texted. Do you know if the Wi-Fi is supposed to be down too? I sipped my mimosa by the pool. My private chef had just laid out a plate of tropical fruit and salmon toast. Waves crashed gently below the cliff. The sunlight made the water shimmer. At 10:02 a.m., Jared finally called. I didn't answer. He called again, then a third time. Then came the text. Jared wrote, "Hey, weird issue. The power company says the account for the house was closed yesterday. It's under your name. Did you cancel something?" I finally responded with a single line. I replied, "I figured y'all would enjoy your independence." No response. For an hour, the group chat stayed silent. Then it exploded. Mariah wrote, "The fridge isn't running. The meat's defrosting." Chris added, "I just tried to order lunch and my card got declined. What's going on?" Jared texted, "Uber won't come either. Said the account's blocked. Denise, can you fix this?" I sat back and took another sip of champagne. They were unraveling. For years, I'd been the quiet backup plan. I paid for ride shares under a family account, covered the house's Wi-Fi and utilities, even had grocery deliveries pre-scheduled. No one ever asked how it worked, because I always handled it. But now? I was gone. By noon, Jared called again. I let it go to voicemail. Jared said in his message, "Denise, okay, I don't know what's going on, but we really need to talk. You could have at least warned us. The kids are sweating and screaming, and it's like 85 degrees in here. Please just call me back." I didn't. I waited until 3 p.m. Then I called the driver. I said, "Time to go." He pulled up to the villa entrance with the door open, engine running, AC already blasting. I slid into the black SUV wearing a fitted silk dress, gold earrings, and heels that clicked sharply on the stone path. My hair was fresh. My skin was glowing. I looked nothing like the woman who'd been doing dishes in their kitchen 2 days ago. When we pulled into the driveway of the family mansion, the place looked like chaos. Jared was pacing with his shirt half drenched in sweat, phone in one hand, the other rubbing his forehead. Tasha was out back, waving a paper plate in front of one of the toddlers. Chris sat on the porch, shirtless, fanning himself with a magazine. As soon as the SUV pulled in, they all turned. When the driver opened the door and I stepped out, time seemed to freeze. Mariah gasped, "Wait, what?" Her eyes traveled from my heels to my dress, to the soft curls in my hair. Jared called out, "Denise, where the hell have you been?" I said calmly, "Enjoying my weekend." Tasha rushed toward me and asked, panicked, "Did you call the utility company? They said the account's in your name. Please, just help us fix it." I looked at her, then tilted my head. I said, "No, I closed the account." Chris stood up and demanded, "Wait, are you serious?" I nodded and said, "Yes." Jared stepped forward, his voice rising. "You just shut everything off? While we're all here? With kids?" I responded without flinching. "Correct." Tasha's mouth dropped open. She asked, "Why would you do that?" I said, "Because it's your reunion. You planned it. You collected RSVPs. You chose the rooms. I figured it was time you handled the rest." There was a long pause. Chris laughed nervously and said, "Okay, you made your point. Now can you please just turn the power back on? We'll talk after." I looked at Chris and replied flatly, "I'm not doing anything." Mariah stepped forward and pleaded, "Denise, please, this is going too far." I raised an eyebrow and asked, "Too far? You mean further than giving me a windowless room after I paid the deposit? Further than saying I only did it to feel included? Further than calling me your helper?" No one spoke. Jared said stiffly, "We didn't mean it like that." I looked at him and said, "You never do." Tasha threw up her hands and exclaimed, "Fine, whatever, just turn it back on before the food spoils." I stepped closer to her and said, voice steady, "I'm not your safety net anymore." Tasha's voice cracked as she asked, "You're just going to leave us like this?" I replied, "I'm sure you'll figure it out." Then I turned and walked back toward the car. Jared shouted after me, "Denise, grow up, this is immature." I stopped and looked over my shoulder. I said with a calm smile, "No. What's immature is using someone's generosity for years and pretending it's owed to you." Then I got in the SUV and shut the door behind me. As we pulled away, I looked out the back window. Tasha stood in the driveway with her arms crossed. Jared just stared at the ground. Chris sat back down with a groan. And Mariah? Mariah watched the car the longest. Not with anger, with confusion, and maybe, just maybe, with fear. They didn't understand what they'd lost until Monday morning. The power was still out. The freezer was a disaster. The house smelled like melted cheese and spoiled meat. No deliveries, no working fan. The Wi-Fi was gone. And with it, their false sense of control. They thought it was a tantrum, a bad mood, maybe a temporary flex. They were wrong. By 10 a.m., the texts started rolling in again. But this time, I didn't ignore them. I sent one message to the family group chat. I wrote, "Since we're being honest now, I want to clear a few things up. Don't worry, this will be my last group message." The chat exploded. Jared replied instantly, "Denise, can you just call me?" Tasha added, "Whatever this is, we can talk about it. Don't air things out in the group like this." I replied, "No, this is exactly where it belongs." Then I started. I wrote, "The Airbnb was paid in full with my business card. None of you reimbursed me, not even partially." Silence. I continued. "The utilities, groceries, cleaners, airport rides, all of that was billed through my company, all automated, and I shut it off." Still nothing. I added, "Chris's last 3 college payments? I paid those. Quietly. You're welcome." Chris replied in the chat, "Wait, you paid that? I thought Mom..." I wrote back, "Your mom called me crying. Said she couldn't face you if you had to drop out. I didn't do it for her. I did it for you." Mariah replied, "Okay, but why are you doing this now?" I responded, "Because for years I helped all of you, and you never once treated me like someone worth respecting. You treated me like a service." I waited. Nothing came through. Then I added the final blow. I wrote, "Also, Jared, you might want to check the family LLC." That one hit hard. 2 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Jared. I answered, finally. Jared said, frantic, "Denise, what the hell did you mean by that?" I said calmly, "Check the operating agreement. I own 60%. You've been managing it. I funded it. Remember when we started it 8 years ago and you didn't have the capital to meet the bank's requirement?" Jared's voice rose. "You said it was temporary." I replied, "It was. Until I realized no one else was ever going to step up. I've been covering the shortfalls every year. Do you know how much you've lost in bad deals?" Jared shouted, "Why are you doing this now?" I said flatly, "Because I'm selling my shares." Silence on the other end. Jared finally said, stammering, You can't sell without..." I cut him off. "Yes, I can. You should really read the terms." He hung up. 30 seconds later, Tasha called. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat back and watched as the group chat exploded. Mariah messaged, "Wait, I thought you didn't even like business stuff." I replied, "Just because I don't brag doesn't mean I don't build." Tasha wrote, "This is unnecessary. You're just trying to make us feel bad." I answered, "No, I'm just showing you the truth. I didn't need your validation, but I won't let you rewrite history anymore." Chris replied, "So, the truck you gave Uncle Ron, that was from your company?" I replied, "Yes, it was a bonus gift for fixing the roof on my second office. He didn't tell you that part, did he?" Mariah messaged again, "We didn't know. You never said any of this." I wrote back, "You never asked." They all assumed I was the poor cousin, the single one, the one who never moved on after dropping out of law school. They thought my small apartment meant I was struggling. They thought my quiet life was boring, that my focus on work meant I had no real family, no real love. They didn't know I owned 3 properties, that I had a 7-figure portfolio, that my agency had been acquired last year in a quiet deal with a 5-year earn-out clause, They didn't know because they never cared enough to ask, and I never offered it, because I didn't need to prove myself. Until now. Now, I wanted them to feel it. Not for revenge, but for recognition. They needed to know. The woman they dismissed, the woman they pitied, was the one holding up the scaffolding under all of them. And I was done holding it up. Later that day, Jared sent me a long, rambling message. Jared wrote, "I didn't know how much you were doing. I figured we were all chipping in different ways. You didn't say you owned that much of the business." I replied, "I signed every check. You never asked where they came from." Tasha messaged separately, "This is cruel, Denise. To humiliate us like this. To make us feel small." I answered, "I didn't make you feel small. You made yourselves feel big by pretending I was small." The phone didn't buzz after that for a while. I think they needed time to sit with it, to realize they didn't just lose a generous family member. They lost their investor, their underwriter, their silent financial lifeline. And now, they had to figure out how to live without me. Funny how people suddenly remember your value when they realize they were standing on your shoulders the entire time. The same relatives who'd laughed at my room, rolled their eyes at my work, and barely remembered to say thank you after I covered their bills, were now tripping over each other to reach me. The calls started the next morning. Tasha called first. Her voice was soft, deliberate. Tasha said, "Hey Denise, I've been thinking, maybe things got out of hand. Can we talk, in person?" I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, she sent a follow-up text. Tasha wrote, "We shouldn't have let the reunion spiral like that. You were right to call it out. Let's fix this as a family." Translation: Please turn the money back on. An hour after that, my phone rang again. It was Jared. I let it go to voicemail. He tried 3 times. Finally, he left a message. Jared said in the voicemail, "Denise, I don't even know where to begin. I messed up, big time. I took you for granted. I thought you just wanted to help, and I leaned into that too much. I never meant to make you feel disposable." He paused, then his voice cracked. Jared added, "I'm sorry, okay? I really am. Don't walk away from all of us. I'll fix this. Just call me back." That was new. I'd never heard Jared cry before. But I still didn't reply, because it didn't feel like a real apology. It felt like fear. Fear that the Denise Fund had finally closed. By the afternoon, even people who hadn't spoken to me in months were suddenly reaching out. Chris sent a voice memo. "Yo, Denise, I didn't know you were behind so much of what's been happening. I just want to say respect. Like, for real. You're a boss." Then he added with a forced laugh, Chris said, "Any chance I could still finish out this semester, though? I'll get the books myself, I swear." Still not an apology, just a new pitch. Even Mariah tried. She called me twice, then sent a long text that read like something she copied from a PR article about repairing burned bridges. Mariah wrote, "You didn't deserve the way we treated you. It wasn't personal. We just didn't see the whole picture. I'd really love to reconnect. No agenda." No agenda? I stared at the message for a while, then blocked her number. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. Later that evening, I got the call I'd been waiting for. It was my mother. She rarely called. She preferred short birthday texts and forwarded prayer memes, but this time she called and didn't stop until I picked up. Her voice was quiet, tense. My mother said, "Denise, they're saying you embarrassed the whole family." I closed my eyes. Of course that's what she'd lead with. I asked, "Is that really your concern? Embarrassment?" My mother sighed and replied, "No one's perfect, but you didn't need to air everything like that. You could have talked to us privately." I said flatly, "I did. For years. You just didn't listen." She went silent. Then her tone softened. My mother said quietly, "I didn't know you were hurting. I thought you were just quiet." I asked, "When's the last time you asked how I was doing?" There was a long pause. My mother finally said, "I don't remember." That was all I needed to hear. I said, "I'm moving to Portugal next month." She inhaled sharply. My mother asked, "You're what?" I said calmly, "I've had the plan in place for months. The property's already purchased. I just hadn't told anyone yet." She asked again, more desperate this time, "Why are you doing this?" I replied, "Because I've spent 10 years showing up for people who only noticed me when they needed something. And now I'm showing up for myself." My mother asked in a trembling voice, "So that's it? You're cutting everyone off?" I said, "Financially, yes. Emotionally, I'm not sure yet. That part's still up to you." We sat in silence for a few seconds. Then she said something that almost got to me. She whispered, "I don't want to lose you." But she already had. She just hadn't realized it until the money stopped flowing. I said gently, "Then start treating me like someone worth keeping. Not just someone useful." She didn't answer. She just said goodbye. That night, I walked along the beach near my villa, barefoot in the sand. I wasn't gloating. There was no satisfaction in watching people panic or scramble. This wasn't revenge. It was release. For years, I'd convinced myself that being needed was the same as being loved. It's not. Love doesn't come with conditions. Love doesn't disappear when the debit card is declined. What they felt for me wasn't love. It was convenience. And I had finally inconvenienced them. They were trying now, of course, suddenly remembering birthdays, sending selfies, asking me if I needed anything. But it wasn't real. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that was okay. Because for the first time in a decade, I didn't need it to be. There's a sound the sea makes in the morning that I never heard back home. It's not loud, not crashing waves or the rush of tide. It's softer, more like breathing. A deep inhale, a long exhale. Rhythmic, constant, alive. I hear it every morning now from the balcony of my villa in Cascais, Portugal. A breeze moves through the open doors. My coffee stays warm. The ocean stays calm. And so do I. It's been 3 months since I left. 3 months since the reunion. The last one I'll ever attend. 3 months since I walked away from the group chat, the guilt, the calls, the begging. 3 months since I stopped being their backup plan. And I've never felt more mine. I wake up without dread now. I eat breakfast slowly. I walk the narrow stone streets of the old town, greet the flower vendors by name, and drink espresso that tastes like clarity. I've invested in 2 Portuguese startups, one run by a pair of sisters building a clean skincare brand, another by a woman developing AI tools for small business owners. I meet with them weekly. I take notes. I teach them what no one taught me. I don't charge them a dime. It's the most rewarding work I've ever done. My money doesn't define me anymore, my time does, and I spend it wisely. I read novels in the afternoons. I've taken up painting again. I go days without checking my phone. No alarms, no emergencies, no last-minute favors. And when the family reaches out, which they do, I don't feel that tug in my chest anymore, that guilt, that trained urge to fix, to serve, to give. I just feel still. Mariah sent an email last week. Subject: I know I messed up. She wrote 5 paragraphs about how she was in a weird place back then, how she didn't mean the things she said, how she's learning to be more self-aware. I didn't respond. Jared sent a voice message a month ago. Jared said in the recording, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm trying to be better. We're cutting back. I'm doing the books myself. Tasha's picked up some consulting. We're good. But it's been hard. I didn't realize how much you were carrying." He paused. Jared added, "I miss my sister." That one almost got me. Almost. But he still hadn't said thank you. Still hadn't paid me back. Still hadn't asked me how I was doing. So I didn't reply. I don't need to be mean. I'm just done being available to people who only recognize my worth when it disappears. My mother writes occasionally now. Long, awkward emails. Half apology, half update. One message read, I told the pastor what you said, about love not being the same as convenience. He said you were right. I didn't know I'd been so blind. I don't want to lose you, but I understand why you left. That one I printed out. Not to keep. Just to see it in my hands. Then I folded it and threw it away. Because forgiveness doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes it's just a quiet decision not to carry someone else's shame anymore. I still remember what it felt like, standing in that sticky kitchen, hearing them call me the family helper. I remember the smell of the bleach wipes, the ache in my back from carrying coolers, the lump in my throat when I saw they'd left me out of the family photo. I remember the way they dismissed me, minimized me, erased me, and I remember the look on their faces when they realized what I'd actually been all along. Not the poor cousin, not the spinster with no real life, not the invisible support beam holding everything up but the investor, but the builder. The one who walked away and took the foundation with her. That moment, that silence, that unraveling, isn't something I revisit with anger. It's just part of the story now, the part that changed everything. They gave me the worst room, and in return, I gave them something better than revenge. A reckoning. A mirror they never asked for, showing them what happens when you mistake silence for weakness and kindness for obligation. Now I live in the kind of space no one ever offered me. Light-filled, free, undemanding. I don't miss the drama, the duty, the weight of everyone else's expectations. I miss the little girl I used to be, the one who just wanted to be included, the one who thought if she gave enough, they'd finally love her right. I hold space for her now. She's still here. But she doesn't run the show anymore. Now I live on my own terms. No more automatic payments, no more guilt calls, no more "you always come through." Now I come through for myself, and every night I fall asleep to the sound of the sea breathing. Inhale, exhale, peace,